So now we're going to start making weird shapes using the same exact commands we just did, and you'll see it's no different, but then you can make all these crazy shapes. So knowing how to like start approaching this, like that's the hardest part, because when we model with like a traditional software, whether it's CAD or Rhino or Revit, and you're used to like only doing things in like they're basically like different types of boxes really, and how you extrude it or don't extrude it, or you open it up or you draw a plane. Once you start getting into these super curved geometries and different sort of things where you don't have those same reference points, you need to really rethink how like the basics of the command works so that you can make it work in this realm. So I'm going to zoom in on this one, and here, just like we did before using this corner from the 3 or 4 points, you'll see it will make that shape even though the points are no longer aligned. See, the top one's rotated a little bit? Rhino doesn't really care. It's just going to draw it like that. So see how it's like nice and smooth and curved? And we can repeat this and keep doing that. That's weird, my snap got in the way. So see, you can get this really cool shape, and it wasn't any harder than drawing the flat one. So that's where Rhino starts to really pull away on its own. Here, oh, I don't know what happened here. Maybe this was where we were supposed to do it, I don't know. I think I had a different command here unless it got deleted. Does yours say something here? I must have deleted it and saved. But imagine something really cool here. So here, surface point with the cap. So that's basically what we just did. And then once you've got that, you can, oh, the selections work just like they did in SketchUp and in CAD, where if you drag this way, it only grabs what's totally within. See here, it's not going to grab that guy. But if you go this way, it'll grab anything that it touches at all. So it will, so keep that in mind, because then here we can grab across here, and I don't end up grabbing those other guys. So here, oh, here's a cool trick I don't think I showed you. If you move using the arrow, it will just move the original, right? But if you hold Alt, like you can in Photoshop, it makes a copy. So just like in Photoshop, if you hold Alt when you move something, oh, it just flew away. It will clone it. Just the same as in SketchUp when you tap Control when you're moving something. So that will make it a copy. And then here, what I'm going to do is join these. So I'm going to type join, so it becomes like one thing. See, it says it's an open poly surface now. So it's no longer 4 individual faces like it was here. And now you can cap it. So that's a different way to approach that same thing. Here, the cool one is we can loft. So remember before we lofted and just like extruded it up? Now you'll see when you loft here, boom, boom, and you hit enter, it'll ask you which way you want to drag the seam. That's good. And then it will draw that just like that. So now let's try and do the sweep 1. And you'll see we're going to end up with that, which is wrong. It's not the shape we want. So if you type in sweep 1, it wants the rail. So I'm going to click that guy. And then, oops, that guy. And then this is the cross section. And you hit enter. And see, in this case, I got the opposite of that one. Now if I repeat the command, so let's move this guy like 30 that way. If I repeat it, select the rail on that side. I did it again. See, it draws that. Why is that happening? Because the first time I told it to choose, so let's move this one like 50. Oops. I chose that line, and then it dragged it in that direction. So if you look at that relationship between, if you hold shift, you can add things to your selection. From here, at that angle, that's going outwards. So if you just drag that along, once you got here, you turn 90 degrees and just keep dragging it along. You turn 90 degrees and you just keep turning it along. It's going to end up with this weird like bucket thing. And then in the other direction, it's angled inwards, so you end up with a little pyramid. So when you use sweep 1, it's really useful if the shape only needs to remain the profile that you're using only needs to remain in the same orientation that it was at the beginning. In order for you to be, so this is like the follow me tool in SketchUp, where it will go along in all these different directions, but it's always going to stay kind of in the same orientation that it was. It'll turn corners and go around curves, but it's not gonna give you the control to use both ends. Now, if you look, we have another thing called sweep 2, which works exactly like sweep 1, except now we get 2 rails that will control the profile instead of just 1. So if you type in sweep 2, or just sweep, and you see they're both right there, just remember how many rails do I need to have, 1 or 2, and that's which one you use. So first thing is select the first rail, so it's going to be here. Second rail is there, and now it wants the cross sections, so it's there, and now you hit enter. And see, now it did work, because now you have 2 points where you can control the edge of that shape. So as it moves along, the bottom is guided by that one, and the top is guided by this one. And you get that nice, clean, sort of twisted shape. And you say, okay. Here, so this one is kind of weird, but notice here, I've twisted the box. So what I did here is I made a box, then I ran this command called area Centroid, which sounds like a weird robot, but what it does is it creates a new point in the center of mass of that object. So whatever your selection is, it will draw a point perfectly in the center. Like it creates a new point that didn't exist before. So that then you can start doing like commands from that point. So in this sense, it's kind of like a weird way to grab the center point of this. But when you start thinking of like a really complex surface, like even look at like the back of these chairs. Imagine each one of those diamonds, it has a center point somewhere, right? But they're not, it's not like you could just draw one and copy it over to all of them. So it would be nice if you could somehow tell Rhino, find the center point of all those and just put a point there for me. So then I can start to scale all of them down towards the center or scale all of them up. And so you can use this one a lot when you're using panel systems because you want that center point. Sometimes you'll use a command not because of what the command does originally, but because it gives you something to do later. So in essence, like you're creating a geometry that you're going to sacrifice later just because you needed it to be able to either rotate a piece or align something or to be able to extrude from that one shape. So in here, I'm just going to create a box like this. And now you're going to type in area Centroid. And it says this one, and hit enter. And it looks like nothing happened, right? But if we go to wireframe mode, you'll see that there is this dot here now, which didn't exist there, but we do have it over there. So see, it's like right in the middle. And now what I did here is I used the twist command. So we can go back to shaded, or you can use like X-ray, which is kind of like in between. So I'm going to type in twist, and I'm going to select my box. That's what I want to twist. And the start of the twist axis, you can click, come on. Do I not have, no, I do have point. Well, let's click here for now.
I think it's because you're in X-ray.
Oh, are you able to grab it?
After I put in the wireframe, yeah.
So let's undo that. The box. We'll grab this guy. And then so here, if I wanted to go just straight vertically, it's a little tricky, right? Because here it looks like I'm vertical, but if I orbit, see like where I am, I'm like out in outer space. So this is a case where anytime I want to make sure I get this either a rotation or like some sort of command, like the mirror command or any of those where you need an axis and you want it to truly be vertical, the easiest way to do it is to just double click this and like zoom out of your windows. You can do this, like where it zooms them all in, and make sure this is vertical. See here, I can go vertical real easy and it snaps to it. And that's the cool thing with the commands. You can start a command in one window and move your mouse to the other window and it stays active, and then you can click in that one. So sometimes you can get a selection in one view that's hard to get. You can even change the mode while you're doing the command. So now what it wants to know is what angle do I want to rotate. So it's going to ask you to start, and then it's going to ask you to finish that angle. So we're going to say go from here and start twisting it something like that. And see, it's made this weird kind of shape. And if we wanted it to look just like the other one, you would move that point down to the bottom. So you move the entire thing, not just like right in the center. Or you could do the centroid of that bottom face instead of the whole object. Here we have an extrude with direction. So if we extrude the surface, you click that guy and then enter. So now if you hit direction, you can make it go at a different angle than just straight. So if I click there to here, see now it's going off at that angle. So you can click there. So here I'm trying to get to is somehow to get this to extrude up to there and do something like that, but that's not really working there. And then here you can also extrude surface along a curve. So what this one lets you do is kind of like the sweep, but you're taking, instead of just the line, you can extrude a whole surface. So this is like, in this sense, we're just doing it along a line, but that line could be curved or have some sort of other shape to it. So all of these are like basic kind of, I would say they're not like at the primitive level, like where you just click box and it gives you a box, but they're like one step up. It's like the next step to making like a more complex form. Once we start getting into like subdividing surfaces and rebuilding and changing the control points, that's when you get to like a whole new level of complexity that these commands then start becoming part of each little step. So if you don't understand them now, it's really important to kind of just take a minute and figure out what's going on. So if we do extrude curve, extrude surface along curve, you select that guy, select path near the start, it's that one, and it'll just do that. So here, you could say, okay, well if I can loft, can't we just grab the loft and just loop it all the way around and then get that shape that we've been doing? So if you look here, that's what's going to end up happening. But we can use loft to give us that exact shape we've been making. It just depends how you do it. So by default, the loft is only going to do this. So if I type in loft, and then remember what I said, it matters what order you click and also on what side of the objects you click. Because if I want this to look right, I'm going to click them in the right order and hit enter, and see now it's done that. But let's say I wasn't careful and I was like here, there, here, there. So now I'm going to get this. Looks like a crab rangoon. It's not what I want at all. So it's important to make sure you're following there. That still doesn't look like what I want. So the way to get this is you need to modify the loft. You still pick all these points But now once we have here, this is the first time we're going to start changing this. So instead of using normal, let's try loose. So loose doesn't actually go through. So look at what normal does. It's bringing that shape, it's going exactly through the next profile, and it's trying to smooth out that transition as much as possible. So it's finding like the path of like least resistance. You know, like a race car, like going around a racetrack, they don't follow the exact edge, they just go like through like a smooth curve. If you go now to loose, it's just going to try and make the shortest path between all of them. And then tight is going to try and go through every single one, while it's like an in-between of the two that we just did. It's going to minimize the distance between them while still hitting every single edge. And then straight sections, rather than bending, it's going to go from here straight to there, straight to there. And that's the one that we want for this situation, just because it's kind of the closest to, we're trying to make a straight shape. We don't need it to be like that. And if you click this, close loft, it will end that last face that we couldn't finish with the other one. Because if you were trying to tell it to go around in the order, and then you're trying to re-click the first one, you've already got it selected, so it won't know to go back and grab it. So doing this will allow you to then get that guy, and then if you wanted to, you can cap him, and that will make him like that. So that's that guy. And